And the moment where you realize it's all the same person and you're like, wait, what? How did I not, like, it's the same person. How did I not see that? Hello, 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 and welcome to Well Shit. It really is that simple. I'm Claire.
And I'm Serena. On this podcast, we help you to understand about your 12 universal needs, why they are currently not being well met,
how to meet them in ways that work for you, and how to consistently do so in quick, easy, and simple ways that fit seamlessly into your life.
We'll also help you to understand how doing so will have a positive ripple effect in literally every area of your life.
If you like what you hear, come and join the conversation in our Facebook group.
And enjoy the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, everyone.
So in our last episode, we talked about questions, and we talked about how questions can be supportive and how they can be not so supportive and problematic and harmful and all the other things associated with it. And it got me thinking about a situation that a lot of the time happens in a lot of relationships. And most of you probably know this if you've listened for a long time, or if you've gone and looked at like my bio or what have you. I worked as a relationship specialist for many, many years. That was my area of expertise. In fact, in a lot of ways, that's where the universal needs came from, was because it was a tool that I created in order to use with my clients, and then realized that every single client that came to me when I was a relationship specialist came to me with exactly the same issue, which was basically, my needs aren't being met in this relationship. Help me fix it. Or more specifically, the other person isn't meeting my needs in relationship. Help me fix it. And I'm like, well, how about we teach you how to do that for yourself so you don't need them to do that for you? And relationship could be about fun stuff instead. And here we are a little while later. And I think that one of the ways in which I've seen people apply the needs work that has been some of the most profound and impactful has been applying this kind of understanding of needs in the context of relationships. I know so many people who are like, oh, my relationship is not the same as it once was because that need stuff is kind of helpful. Yeah, I thought this might resonate with you. Want to share a bit?
Just yes. I mean, it's interesting because the needs stuff makes things much more complex but much easier at the same time. Like you have a understanding of things that you didn't even know existed in your relationship. So you are aware of all of these aspects and these conditions that like these things that we've been conditioned into. And then all of a sudden you get this needs lens. And I mean, I have a very interesting perspective on it because I got the needs lens long before my husband even acknowledged that, like, I mean, he obviously knew it was a thing as I came into the needs fold, but it was a very slow process where like he'd hear things and like, all right, like that makes sense. Or, he'd ask, Claire for advice on things or, to have, he had a decent understanding. But then when he went through the program and then we could start communicating with that same language and that that same kind of mentality, like it's a totally different relationship. Like it's just a totally different relationship. And like what we're talking about today has been one of the biggest, like, I mean, there's so many things, like, and it's like when you think of a relationship, there's so many different aspects, and communication is, I'd say probably, it's one of the core, the core elements. And this small little thing can change the course of an argument. It can change the course of your relationship in general. Like it's, I could scream from the rooftops, like, do this and do this with your significant other, and people would be like, well, yeah, well, you teach it. And it's like, no. Like, no, like this, I'm like telling
Yes.
you, like
Absolutely.
it changes things.
And it's so interesting because like what witnessing you go through this process of you not knowing about needs, and like, and obviously being like best friends, I got to see the inner workings of your relationship prior to you really knowing much about needs, through you knowing about needs, and like the fundamental shift that happened when you alone went through it, and what a difference that made. And then the seismic shift that happened when Joe went through it. And it's like the conversations that I now hear through Serena, that Serena and Joe are having, and I'm like, oh, I feel so proud, like a proud mama bear sometimes. I'm like, oh, like just because both of you have taken this, because I think that sometimes like what happens when people kind of come across personal development stuff, or they learn something in therapy, or they find something new on TikTok, and they might do it for a couple of like weeks, and it's like, oh yeah, this is really helpful. Oh, life, oh look, a butterfly, kind of thing. Like it's like something happens, and all of a sudden it gets completely forgotten. And a lot of tools in personal development are very helpful, but they're only very helpful if you actually apply them and use them on a consistent
And
basis.
do so
like
consistently.
Right, exactly. It's that, like, that being in that place of it's like anything, like doing exercise is helpful, but if you only do it for a couple of weeks and then don't do it again for the rest of your life, you're probably not going to get a huge amount of benefit from it. It's like doing things consistently do make it, really does make a difference. And like seeing how both of you have really kind of got, oh, this is not like one of those like surface level things. This is like, when we get this, and I've like witnessed you two starting to go deeper with it and understanding it even more, both like individually and with each other. It's been really, really amazing to witness. And the idea to do this episode came from a situation that happened with a couple who were clients of mine. And it was one of those very, very interesting situations as somebody who is like mentoring somebody and witness this whole thing play out. And because I understood the needs of everybody at play in the situation, how I addressed this was very specific. Like I took a very different, specific approach. So set the scene. We're having a conversation, and we're actually having a conversation about one of the individuals and something specifically going on in their life. It wasn't actually about both of them at that point. We were just talking about one of them. And I asked them a question, and they came back with like kind of a bullet pointed answer that was like this and this and this and this. And their partner said, well, in what ways are you going to do that? So what happened was, this person, I asked the question, the person said A, B, C, D. And then their partner said, well, how are you going to do F? And both of us went, well, what do you mean? And he was like, well, you said F, so how are you going to do F? And both of us went, I don't remember hearing F. I remember hearing A, B, C, D. Like I don't remember F being mentioned. And this person was resolute that this was what had happened, that this was what was said, and they wanted an answer to it. And interestingly enough, how we kind of got through it in that moment, we're going to get to a little further on, because not everybody is in this situation when these moments happen. The good thing about this situation, as I'm watching this play out, I'm like, I don't think that's what they said at all. I heard A, B, C, D. I am 99% sure they didn't say F. Now, the good thing about this situation is most, if not all, of my sessions are recorded. We record the session so that people don't have to worry about taking notes in their session, so they can just be in the session and they can go back and listen to it afterwards. Because the number of times that I'll say something, people are like, oh my God, that was amazing. Can you say that again? I'm like, I don't remember what I just said. Or I might rephrase it, but it's not quite as potent as it was the first time I said it. But also for them, it means that they don't have to worry about spending the whole session taking notes to be able to retain what is said. Because I mean, as Serena has said, like, I mean, I remember when we were talking about you going through the needs program, as somebody who'd done a lot of therapy, you'd done like a decade of therapy before you even came to the needs work. And you were like, okay, in that 10 years, maybe I got half a dozen things in that entire 10 years that were helpful. And then you came and did needs sessions, and you were like, oh God, I'm getting like half a dozen every session. So like, if you're like trying to retain that information, every session. That's a lot to try and hold on to. And that's the reason that having the sessions recorded is so helpful, because it means clients can go back, they can listen as many times. And I've had clients who've gone back and listened to it like a few times, and like the third time they've heard something completely different to what they heard the first and second time. They were focused on one thing, and then all of a sudden, because they've got the one thing now they heard something else. So I offer this service to all of my clients, and I don't actually think I've ever had, I think there might be one client in all the years I've been doing this that has asked me not to record the sessions. So we were recording. So I'm like, well, the good news is there's a recording of this. So I can go back and listen to the recording and check what actually had happened, what actually was said. And lo and behold, the person said A, B, C, D. No mention of F wasn't mentioned at all. Nothing even F adjacent. There wasn't even an E in there. We were A, B, C, D. E hadn't happened. F hadn't happened. But this person was utterly convinced that F had been said and was trying to further the conversation based on what they thought they had heard. So I went back. I listened to it. I listened to it many times. I took a snippet of that recording and I transcribed what was said in that interaction so that it could be seen. And in the next session, I brought this to them and I said, it's something I want to raise that happened last time. And I want to be very clear. I'm not doing this from a let me point out that you're wrong kind of thing. I'm not saying this is a mistake that one person has makes consistently. I'm betting this happens between both of you in both directions on a pretty regular basis, because in my experience, as somebody who worked as a relationship specialist for a long time, it happens in most relationships on a fairly regular basis until you start to learn about this stuff. So this is not coming from a blame point of view. I just want to show you how unreliable our perception of what happens can sometimes be. And so I replayed what happened and they were like, okay. And neither of them were quite really understanding it until I literally wrote the words up on the screen, put the words on the screen. Here's the conversation that happened. And then they were like, and the person who had thought they'd heard F was like, oh. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, and again, this is not blame. This is not accusatory. I'm sure that you both do this because most people do. I'm just wanting to show this because we had a recording of it and there was a dispute that happened and it could have so easily become an argument in that moment. And I know if I hadn't been there, it almost certainly would have become an argument, or one person would have just placated the other person in order to avoid the argument, be like, okay, fine, I said whatever, even though they knew they didn't because they hadn't. And so it was nothing about blame. But then we went back and re-listened to it again with the text on the screen, and you could see them going, I was sure that I heard them say that. I'm like, yeah, I totally get it. The issue wasn't it wasn't in what they thought they heard. The issue was how they responded to what they thought they heard. And the way they responded to this was, you said this. And there's so few places to go when somebody says, you said this, other than, no, I didn't, because that's like your immediate reaction to that is like, that's not what I said. Like, and I mean, even just saying that, that's not what I said. Like I can hear the arguments echoing from my past relationships. I didn't say that. Like, yes, you did. This is what you said. No, I didn't say that. What I said was this. That's not what you said. What you said was this. And the problem in this is that so often in these moments, our unmet needs are seeking to be met by what we are saying in these conversations, that we are missing the point entirely about what is important in that moment. So what could end up happening? So for example, one of the needs that was up for the client where this happened was security. They needed to feel certain about something. And so they became certain about this thing. And what's really ironic is they became certain about the thing that was wrong. So not only did they not create security, they actually compromised their security, because when they then found out that they were very wrong about it, they were like, oh shit, now I can't trust anything that I think. And I'm like, no, that's not what we're saying at all here. Like, and it's good to feel secure in your perception of things. And it's so important to be open to the possibility that we may have misheard. We may have misspoke. We may have misunderstood. We may have misworded something, like said something that we didn't really mean, or used phrases that I'm like, oh, it's not really, I didn't mean that, but I can see you.
Something that's happened on both sides in my relationship has been like there was almost like a conversation simultaneously going on in one of our heads, and that conversation went a little differently based on our expectations, based on, you know, what we thought the situation to be. Yeah, and it's almost like there wasn't a blank space to necessarily fill in. However, like what little space there might have been was filled in with something that didn't exist. It's like, no, where did that come from?
It's like rather than saying there's a blank space here, you fill it with what you want to put in here. That blank space was already filled with your expectation of what they were going to say. So there's no space for you to actually hear what they're saying, like, because you've already kind of made your mind up of what, not in a way that is not intentionally to go, no, I know how this is going to go, but just based on having had the same conversation or similar conversations in the past, you kind of expect things to go a certain way. And then it's like, you're kind of halfway through the conversation, and then you have these moments where you're like, wait, what did you just say? Like, hold on a second. No, I'm halfway down another conversational path. And then I realize, hold on, you said something completely different then, or not what I expected to happen. So I think that these things happen so frequently. So it might be a security thing. It might be like, I need to feel sure about something. And so I'm going to feel sure about my perception of something rather than being sure and feeling secure in other things that are going on in the space. So for example, one way you could feel secure is you could feel secure that we're on the same page, like we're on the same team. We're trying that our objective is the same here. We want to connect. We want to communicate. We want to understand each other better. That is the thing I can feel secure about. And if you don't feel secure about that, and a lot of people don't feel secure about that in their relationships, sometimes you can try to get your security need met through being sure about things without it necessarily being based in fact. And you can try to state things as absolutes or definitives or right. And you can make it a right-wrong situation, because the thing that I'm wanting to be secure about is that this is it. It is the way that it is. It is the way that I thought it, that I heard it. And there's no possibility for anything wrong in that. Or for any other possibility. It could be a value need thing. It could be I've always had great memory when it comes to certain things. And therefore, my value is in my memory being good. And therefore, if I leave room for the possibility that my memory isn't as great as I thought it was, or my perception isn't as strong as it maybe once was, or as I believe it to be, I feel less value. My value need doesn't feel as well met. It could be a power thing. It could be about personal power. And I was like trying to get the power in the situation by being right. And the only way that there's power is by being right. And if somebody's right, somebody else has to be wrong. So it may be a shitty way of trying to get our personal power need met. The problem with this is that it immediately puts us on opposite sides. The second that we get into I said this, no, you didn't. You said that, no, I didn't. We're on opposite sides. Like rather than, and therefore it becomes combative. It becomes this it becomes an argument, because it's like one side is one thing, one side is another thing. And the problem is most of these situations aren't recorded. Now luckily most of our episodes are, because we remember to hit record. If you've been with us for a while, you know what that's about.
We've come a long way.
We have come a long way. I mean, I do think our new recording system has made things a lot easier for us to remember. And still, we've come a long way. But most of these situations, we don't have a recording going on. We don't have somebody who's constantly got a little voice memo app open, like listening to everything that we're saying, to be able to go back and replay it. And the number of times I remember in my past that I'm like, I wish this was being recorded and we could go back and replay exactly what happened, because then you would hear. But even that, even wanting to be able to go back and replay it, it's because I'm trying to prove that I'm right. It's me trying to say, I know what happened. And if there was a recording, the recording would show you what happened. And therefore you would know that I'm right about what's happened. And we'd be able to finally understand that I'm right in the situation, you're right in the situation, and we can move on. It's not the most supportive way of approaching relationships. Surprisingly, I know, shocking.
Right.
And how we navigated it in that moment was how I would suggest most people navigate this situation. Now, the challenge is, if there's only one person who is doing this, it can cause there to be a barrier to this sort of situation being resolved. Because what happened in that moment was, I said, and the interesting thing about this situation was, this person was so desperate to have their security need met in this moment that there were two other people in the room who both were saying, I don't think that's what was said, or I don't remember her saying that, or I don't remember that being said, or I thought I heard this. Even though there were two other people who were like, I don't think so, this person was still resolute about the fact that they were right. And this is what was said. So the first thing that's most important here is, the biggest change that will make the difference to these kind of conversations and these kind of arguments is to leave room for the possibility of something else being true. It's to leave room for the possibility that something else was said, that something else was meant, that something else that you misheard, or maybe they misspoke, or there's something that's being lost in translation. The second you do that, it softens this entire thing. Because the second you say, I don't remember saying that, or I don't remember hearing that, or I thought I heard you say this, and then following up with what I meant was, or what did you mean? I thought I heard you say this. What was it? What did you mean in that when you were speaking just then? You can refocus the conversation on what is important. I.e., we're trying to communicate about something right now. And in order for us to communicate, we both got to try to be understanding the other person. That's the point of communication. The point is to understand each other and to share that understanding with each other and to move forward in that understanding. It's not about being right. And the second it's about being right, it's about a win-lose. The second it's about a win-lose, everybody loses. Because if anybody loses in a relationship, if Serena and I were having this conversation and I win the conversation and Serena loses the conversation, what loses is the relationship. And if the relationship loses, everybody loses. Like, we lose connection. We might lose a little bit of trust. We might lose a little bit of depth. We might lose a little bit of bond in that moment. And it's so important to remember what's important and get back focused on that. I know that there's another option that you use sometimes, right? With when these situations happen.
Yeah, before we get to that, I want to say we have to remember we're human and that we're in human relationships. And
what? Since when?
Right.
You never told me this. Like, this is
shocker.
News.
Shocker. And I think people, a lot of time, like, people do input information that wasn't said. People do misspeak. People, like, I do it all the time. My brain is thinking one thing and my brain is like, Serena, this is a cohesive thought. You've got this. Like, they are going to understand. And it comes out and I'm met with, wait, what? Like, from the standpoint of, I think I'm saying something different, but the way I'm conveying it is coming off completely different. Like, and I think that, like you said, a lot of time it is kind of wrapped up in that, you know, that value need aspect of it. But it's like, that happens, and to not get upset about. And I think that's a lot of times, like, my husband and I, we'd get frustrated with each other, with ourselves, and we'd get like this kind of like internal angst because the conversation isn't going smoothly. Well, we're fucking humans. Like, humaning isn't
Right.
a smooth process. Like, we're in this together. And
Right.
having that mutual understanding, like, oh, okay, well, he did say that, but that's obviously not what he meant. So let's figure out exactly what he meant to say so that the message gets across, which actually kind of leads me nicely into one of the things that my husband and I do is, and I mean, more power to him. He probably does this more often than me. He'll be like, all right, let's pause for a second. Let's take a deep breath. Sounds like our wires got crossed somewhere. Like, I don't, like, could be me, could be like, could be what was said, could be what was heard. Like, something is not lining up here. Let's start over.
Right.
What? Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean let's start over? What were you, now that we know what wasn't trying to be said, what were you trying to get across? What understanding was there? And that's something that it's so simple. It's so simple to be like, ooh, like, something is not jiving with, like, this, like, we're not connecting here. Like, let's figure out why, rather than both like trying to muscle through what isn't even like. And I think that, like, so often in my life I can look back at times that I was like, in the effort to not be wrong, and sometimes it's like not even to be right, but just to not be the person in the wrong, being like, so with my convictions being like, no, it was like this, rather than being like, oh, maybe I did say, like, my brain goes off into weird places. Like, there are sometimes I don't know if I'm in the same conversation when I come back to them. Like, did I just subject jump without realizing it? So, like, to be like, hey, no, sounds like there's just a miscommunication here. Like, it doesn't have to be pointed out. It's on your side. It's on my side. It's like, something just isn't communicating correctly. Let's start it over and see if we can do it better again next time. Like,
right. Well, and like, even that, like, when you said that one of these is like, just not to be wrong. And I think that that's one of the things in this, like, that not being wrong, a lot of the time that is about our value need. Like, we perceive that if we are wrong, that we are somehow less than, like, that there's something wrong with us because we've misunderstood, or because we've made a mistake, or what have you. And the truth of the matter is, we all do this. And you're right. Like, we are human. Like, one of the things that, like, that we do as humans is we tend to distort, delete, and generalize, i.e. that we don't. It's one of the reasons that eyewitness statements are incredibly unreliable. Like, if you look at it in terms of context of, like, the law, eyewitness statements generally aren't the best evidence. Like, there's way more evidence that's more important than those, because the eyewitness statements, you just got to look at, like, there's some great examples of when you, like, we see sometimes what we expect to see, we hear what we expect to hear. There's and so when we talk about, like, delete, distorting, and generalizing, what I mean by that is, like, we delete information. So, like, there's certain information, like, if you think about where you are right now, there is information that you are deleting so you can focus on what we're saying right now. Maybe it's the hum of a refrigerator, maybe it's the hum of a fan, maybe it is the noise in the road outside. It's not that it's not there. We just delete it from our consciousness because we want to focus on the important things. The other thing is that we distort. We sometimes see one thing and we actually see something else. So it's like, oh, I saw a pink car. Not that you see very many pink cars. And it's like, maybe that's it. Maybe I saw a red car is what I say, because I don't expect to see a pink car. So I distorted it in my brain. My brain saw what it expected to see, which was a red car. Well, actually, it was a pink car. That's kind of a rare thing to see. So it's not something I would have imagined would be true.
Well, and as you're using that example, it could have been somewhere in between too. It could have been, depending on who's looking at it, a shade of red, or it could have been a shade that airs more on the pink side. And I mean, I know that adds a little bit more nuance to this specific example, but it's like, there's so much that can happen when it comes to, especially when you're in a conversation and communicating with another person, because while we're on colors, what I see as a color and what my husband sees as a color are two totally, like, they're not even on the same fucking palette. He's like, that's blue. I was like, that is most certainly not a blue. That is a, and I come out with whatever there was a huge
TikTok viral video that went around just not that long ago about the couch that was blue.
Or the
The
dress.
couch was gray. Well, it was like the dress is one of them. That was from years ago, but this was like
Mhm.
very recent, where this girl basically found live over TikTok that she was colorblind, because she's like, that's a blue couch. And they're like, is the blue couch? That's a gray couch. Like, is the blue couch in the room with us? Like, and like, she's like, well, it's like this. It's the same as this, right? And this is also blue. Like, no, that's blue. That's most definitely gray. And they were saying like, there's this thing about millennial gray, I think it is, whereby a lot of people have gray in their houses because they don't see gray. They think it was this whole thing, but it's the same kind of principle. What you see as one thing and what somebody else sees as another thing, you see the same thing and you see two different things when you're looking at it.
I think context is also a big,
yes,
the bigger picture of context. And something that happened recently with Claire and I is we had a conversation about a song, and I was like, and there had been stuff that had happened previously where I had planned something and I was like, I'm going to get it all done so we don't have to worry about it. And Claire had some feelings about the fact that I had taken it on, like, she realized that it was in an effort to help, but also it's like, oh, okay, well then that's done. So that means this, whatever it meant in, like, there was an idea that that's what that meant. So then,
I basically
down the road.
I what happened was Serena had taken something off my plate to help me, but because there hadn't been conversation around that, it sounded like she'd made a bunch of decisions about something that normally we would have decided together. And I was like, oh, I'm not a part of that decision-making process. Oh, I can see you're doing it. Like, I knew that there was none of trying to help, but part of me also was like, well, that's kind of fun stuff that I want to have I want to have input to, like, can we figure that out together? But it took some time to figure out that I had those feelings about it.
And it was like, I mean, it probably a couple of months before it came back. Like it wasn't a thing that was discussed, and it was like, you know, in the chaos of life, like that went to the back burner and it wasn't really a thing. And then we were having a conversation about something kind of adjacent,
similar,
to it,
but
related. And there was the perception based on what had happened earlier. There was an entire almost conversation that had happened in both of our heads that didn't happen at all. And it wasn't until, and we both had these like, well, it was because of this, or you said this, and it's like, no, I had said this, but like it had nothing to even do with that. And it was like that kind of the concept. And once we finally talked about it, you know, go figure, communication, we got to the root of what it was. And it was like, oh, you were trying to take something off my plate. Like, you didn't say this is what it was. You were saying it in the context of, we don't have to worry about it if we don't have to.
Yes.
However,
it could be this.
Yes.
And there's also possibility, and there were pieces of the communication was missing on both sides, and each of us had filled in the blanks with totally different stories. And then we had a conversation, was like, oh, that's not, I thought, oops.
And that day when the stories came together, and Claire was like, all right, I'm going to ask you, like, and she did questions from the empowerment dynamic as to, all right, let's get some clarity on this situation. It's like, oh no, we were on two different roads, and we came to an intersection, and we were like, oh,
we were in two different countries, I think. Like, I don't And so that's what, like, the deletion is, that's what distorting is. And generalizing, I think, is pretty obvious, where it's like we generalize and we say, oh, these things are all that kind of thing. They're sort of similar-ish, but by generalizing and putting them together, sometimes we lose some of the understanding about them.
Do you think, based on kind of what I was just saying, like input would be one of them?
Input would be one of what?
Like in that deletion, distortion, like inputting information.
The delete, distort, and generalize, that's how the human brain works. It's one of the things you learn in neurolinguistic programming. So it's like it's sometimes how our brain processes, and it's not to say that there are others. Those are just three of the ones where, in terms of this kind of miscommunication, those are sometimes the reasons that the miscommunication happens. And you're right, like context is another one. A lot of that context, though, is because we have deleted, distorted, and generalized. So like the context in that situation, like I had distorted, you had generalized, so you hadn't communicated certain things, which meant that I then took what I was given and I distorted it slightly, and I deleted some of the things you said. But then, so like, and so the context was kind of created by those three ways. Like we were both doing all those different three things, and that's what created a different context for each of us.
And it was just for like stepping outside of the situation. The reason why it happened is because we were just trying to get our brains to understand what was going on. Like it wasn't, there wasn't any, like, this wasn't one of those situations of right or wrong or like that kind of like Claire against me. It was like, okay, based on the information that I have in my head right now, like, how does this make sense to me? Oh, well, it makes sense if this is the scenario. All right, we're going to go with that one for right now.
Right. Absolutely. And like, so I think that sometimes people can not really realize, because we're so convinced that our perspective on the world is accurate. We're so convinced that what we see is how it really is. And the truth of the matter is, we know the world doesn't look the way that we are perceiving it to be. Like, I think, is it yellow? I think yellow isn't actually a color. So like
everybody
can't
sees
perceive,
a different yellow.
Yeah, we can't perceive yellow in our using like with our eyes, which means that our brain fills in the blank as to what it thinks yellow is going to look like. And so we all recognize that thing is the thing that we're agreeing is yellow, but what you see as yellow and what I see as yellow could be completely different. There's so many of these situations where we just don't believe that we're wrong. We don't believe that we could miss something so obvious. There's a great example, and I'm sure you'll be able to find these on YouTube, which shows examples of this, where somebody is asking somebody like for help on a map or like for directions to go somewhere or something, and then somebody walks through the middle of them with like a big couch or a big mattress or something huge, or a big sign that goes between them. And the person who that what happens is they exchange the person behind the mattress or the sign or whatever it is, and when they come back, they continue the conversation with said person, and it's like, it's an entirely different person who is standing in front of you, and people don't believe that would happen, and they wouldn't realize it. There's a great example, and I'm not going to spoiler it in case people watch it. There is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and I'm not going to say which one it is because that will create the spoiler, but I'm going to explain the scenario. There is somebody who comes in and plays 3 different roles in the show. They have a different accent, they have a different hair, they have a different they have different accessories and things on, like glasses and those sorts of things. And the moment where you realize it's all the same person, and you're like, wait, what? How did I not, like, it's the same person, how did I not see that? And the truth of the matter is, because we're not looking that closely. And when you look back on it and you're like, well, yes. And that how the person's makeup is done is different, and how the person is speaking is different, and how they walk is different, and how their demeanor, their manner. And we're just not paying that close attention. And we think we are. We think we're all very observant. We think we're all paying a lot of attention. And the truth of the matter is, there's so many things that could be happening that we're not noticing.
It's like the Mrs. Doubtfire factor. Like,
right.
It's kind of the same thing. It's like, how can you, like, we think we know, and it's like, do I think I would know if my husband dressed it up as a, like, was she British or
Scottish? Yes.
Scottish, yeah. I didn't. Yes. I'm like, I knew there was some sort
British, but the Scots would appreciate it if we acknowledge them as individuals.
But like I would think that I would be like, obviously I would know it's them, but if we're not in that.
Right. Well, and Mrs. Doubtfire is one of those,
like, when we're in a conversation, like staying in the same frame of mind while thinking about what you want to say, taking in what's being said, having life swirling around outside of you, having whatever the hell's going on inside swirling around in there. Like, I think I have little, like, drunk kittens bouncing off the walls sometimes in there. Like, the chances of there being some sort of, like, miscommunication, misunderstanding is probably greater than having a completely like one track, completely understood conversation.
Right.
Yet it's what leads to so many arguments. You think we'd be to the point where we're like, okay, miscommunications happen. But as a
Right.
society, it's almost like we can't grasp that.
Because we've been trained and conditioned from the youngest age to not be wrong. Like, we're trained to do things right. We're trained to get things right in school, and like all the things, like we get praised for being right, and sometimes there are punishments if we get things wrong. Like, and it's like it's like we've been conditioned into being right is this amazing virtuous thing, and being wrong means there's something wrong with us, rather than recognizing that mistakes happen and miscommunications happen. I mean, like Mrs. Doubtfire, like, I just got to finish this thought. That's like one of those where he's in full prosthetics, he's in full body difference, he's got a different act. Like, there's not even a like, it's so easy. Like, yes, the eyes, but when I'm talking about the show that I'm talking about, there's no prosthetics involved.
Gotcha.
They're not playing like a different gender. They literally have got subtle differences in the accent, their makeup, their demeanor, but you can see it's the same. Like, when you go back and look at it, it's like, how did I not see that was the same person? Like,
do I know what this
roles? Do you know what this is? I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Okay. Because now I'm like, I don't want to know, because I don't want the spoiler, because I'll be like, oh,
you know, it's one of my all-time favorites. I don't think you've ever watched it, which is why I said I'm not gonna spoil it for you.
The show?
It's one that I watch annually. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought when you first said it, and I was like, okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm on the same page as Claire now. Sorry, the rest of you. She can't say it. Like, I know she can't. I've never seen it, and I know why she can't say it. But
yes, because it will give things away, and it's part of the brilliance of the show. This is one of those things where it's like, part of the brilliance of the show is like, holy crap, how did I not see what was right in front of my face? Because you are in the same position as all the characters except you're in a different position, because these different people interacted with different characters, and none of them realized they were all speaking to the same person. You saw all of those interactions and didn't see it was the same person. And that's the like mind-blowing thing. And so, because we all have different experiences of life, because we all see different things and perceive different things and focus on different things, and we put different importance on different things, we're going to see things differently. We're going to notice things differently. But the most important thing here is to recognize that the reason that we want to be right is because we think that being right is going to support our needs. And if we think that being right is going to support our needs, and we're so attached to being right, it's because our needs are not met. The way you get to be able to say, or maybe I was wrong, is when your needs are well met, and you don't need to be right in order for your needs to be met. The more that you can, I mean, I remember a situation many years ago. It was a situation with a group of friends many years back, and somebody made a very bad first impression on me, because I thought that I was somebody who was very important to somebody who was close to them, and I thought they would like put on make the effort, I suppose, and I wasn't a fan, and I felt off about the whole thing. And then sometime later, because we were all still part of this same group, conversation happened, and I realized that right at the beginning I'd said, like, just be yourself. And then I had a problem with the fact that they were themselves. And that they didn't make a special effort for me because I was important to the person they were close to. And I was like, and at that moment, I remember putting my hands up and going, this is all my mistake. I was the one that made the mistake here, because I said one thing and then expected something different. And it was that moment where everyone was like, I could see people, and rather than being like jumped on and seen as this bad, I got a lot of credit for that in that moment. Like, people like I hold my hands up to you. Like, I don't think many people in that situation would have gone, yeah, I was wrong. That was my mistake. I apologized. And I tried to make it right. And we're still all a part of each other's lives, and we're now closer than ever. But if I hadn't been willing to be wrong, I don't know how that would have played out. I don't think we would all still be close. I don't think we would have. I don't know whether they would still be close. I think that it might have have made the whole thing fall apart. Ultimately, what it comes down to is, go back to the empowerment ecosystem. What is the context of the entire empowerment ecosystem? The context of the entire empowerment ecosystem is community. Community is really important to us, and creating connection with the people around us is how we create community. And having supportive relationships is how we create community. And the way you create supportive relationships is by remembering you are on the same team. So in these moments where that moment happens, where it's like, I know they said this and they're saying they didn't, or no, I know I said this and they're saying that I said something else. It's about remembering what is important. Being curious is being important. Remembering you are on the same team. The whole point here is we want to figure this out. We want to understand each other. And if something has happened that's caused us to misunderstand each other, whether you said it wrong, whether I heard it wrong, whether I sneezed and missed something that you said, or whatever it is, it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter what was said. What matters is what was meant. And yes, it is important. Context, nuance in this. Yes, it is really important to not say harmful. When I say it doesn't matter what was said. If someone says something that's harmful, that is important. It does need to be addressed, and that's a separate thing. But when we're just talking about miscommunications, and it's not something harmful that's been said, it's just a misunderstanding. It is just one person is saying something, the other person didn't get the memo, and all that matters is that communication happening. What matters is connecting. What matters is clarifying. What matters is understanding. What matters is communicating. And the quicker you can get back to being in that space of remembering that you are connected and you are on the same side and being curious, the easier things will happen and the better your relationships will be. The second you can say, I didn't think that's what I didn't hear you say that. I thought I heard you say this. Okay, what was it you were trying to say? Because the thing is, at that point, it doesn't matter which it was. It doesn't matter whether they misspoke or whether you misheard. You can say, it doesn't matter whether you misspoke or whether I didn't hear you properly. I want to understand, what are you trying to say to me? I want to make sure that I understand what you want to get across to me so that you can be understood. And the second that you take it out of that context of right and wrong, the easier it is for somebody else to let their defenses down. Because what ends up happening is that once you go, you said this, no, I didn't, that no, I didn't is a defense. No, I didn't. They're going to potentially see as an attack. Yes, you did. That's a defense. Like we're in attack and defense mode. And the second you can say, instead of that attack and defense mode, okay, it doesn't matter whether I misspoke or whether you misheard me. Can we get we're on the same team? Can I reiterate what I was saying? Can I say it again and see whether I can explain myself better? Because I want to make sure that we're understanding each other. The second you can say that, people are likely to soften. Now, it is important to say, if there is only one person who is doing this all the time, it ends up in a very unhealthy dynamic. Because if one person then ends up feeling like they're right all the time and the other person is like, oh, maybe I misheard or maybe I misspoke or whatever, that's not a supportive dynamic either. We want to get to the point where we're both doing this, and there are ways of getting there. I'm not going to be able to describe that fully on this episode. But you going first is definitely the first step. You being willing to leave room for the possibility that maybe you didn't understand, or you didn't speak and say the thing that you meant to say, it makes it like, oh, I'm not worried about being wrong. It doesn't matter whether I'm wrong in this. What matters is I want us to understand each other. I want us to be on the same page.
And when you just said that, something kind of clicked in my head. Especially being of the neurospicy variety, my brain works a little bit differently. My husband's brain works a little bit differently from mine. We both work a little bit differently than Claire's. And the thing is, like, what makes sense in my brain sometimes just doesn't make sense in the context of how somebody else's brain works. So it couldn't, like, that's something that I've come to realize in my own communications with people. It's like, it may not be it's you, it's me. It may be just the way that it's being presented. Like, and it's like trying something different. Like, okay, I get
it's
that
a difference
that obviously didn't land the right way.
Yeah, yes, it's a difference rather than a problem.
Yes, and that's it. And taking kind of that negativity out of it, being like it's a miscommunication rather than an argument, in the sense this, like, I'm keeping straight and narrow on this topic with it. It's like, it doesn't have to be an argument. It can just be a miscommunication. And it could be a miscommunication that you then get that clarity you need. You get, you get the outcome you want. Or it could be an argument that it derails what the point of the communication was in the first place and everything else. Like, then you're on a totally different trajectory into argument land where, there's
nobody has fun in argument land.
You get lost there pretty easily, and you're like, what the
roller coasters are shitty. There's no cotton candy. Like, it's just like argument land sucks. Let's be honest.
Argument
like, if you're gonna go to a theme park, there's better ones. There's like, let's have fun land. There's like have an adventure land. There's let's forget the argument and just go be silly together land. Like, way better lands to go and have some fun in. There's a couple of things that I wanted to note, and now I've distracted myself with all the different theme park lands. I've got to try and rein it back in. Oh, that was the other thing, is that the other thing that can sometimes stop this, sometimes one of the things that creates this situation is jumping in. It's like assuming you understand and jumping in too early, or jumping in with only half of the understanding about what's going on. So Serena will verify, this is something I say on the regular, which is like, can you say more about that, please? Or in what way? Or I'm like, can you explain more about that? Like, I think I might be understanding, but can you say more so I can make sure I'm understanding what it is that you're saying? Happens with us all the time. Like, especially when we're talking about podcasts. Serena will go, da, 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 da. And I'm like, can you say more about that last bit? I'm not saying you're wrong. I want to understand what you mean by that, to see whether, and sometimes Serena will say it and I'm like, oh, no, that's not what I thought you meant. I agree with that. And I also think there's this other thing over here that's also important as well. And so sometimes by asking some of those clarifying questions that we were talking about at the beginning of the last episode, we can avoid that. Like, sometimes it's not even necessarily that something was said, like the misunderstanding is like, we think we understand and we've jumped in to respond from a misunderstanding, and then someone's like, what are you saying that for? That's got nothing to do with what I just said, because there's been the misunderstanding has happened before the response has happened. So these are also things that you can do, is like the more you can get curious, the more you can remember that if you're communicating with somebody, what is your outcome? Like, why are you communicating with somebody? Like, generally speaking, we don't communicate with people who we don't care about. Like, or we communicate as little as possible with the people we don't care about. Like, if we're having this kind of a communication with somebody, it generally is somebody that we care about, which means that our outcome is connection. Our outcome is understanding. Our outcome is trust. Our outcome is support. Our outcome is care. Our outcome is all these things that a lot of the time are very much the needs of a relationship, which are different to the needs of the individuals. If we focus on that, what tends to happen is, when we get into this, you said this, no, I didn't. I said this, no, you didn't. Da, 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 da. All of that sort of, That is the drama triangle showing up in your relationship. The second somebody said, you said this, and you're like, I didn't say that. You see them as the persecutor, you're in the victim. And when you go, no, I didn't. I said this. And then they're like, oh, so they're in the victim now and you're in the persecutor approach. And we bounce back and forth. The drama triangle is a ride in argument land. Like that is, and it is sucks. You come off, you're battered and bruised, you're exhausted. No fun has been had whatsoever. If, however, you decide you want to go to empowerment ecosystem land, not sure what that is. It doesn't sound as fun as some of the other theme parks I've been to, but it really is. Like, and if you get into that, like in that moment where you can feel that tension, in that moment where you can feel that, no, I'm right. The second you notice that I'm right coming up, the second you notice that, no, and a lot of the time, sometimes that can happen because we're feeling misunderstood. We want to feel understood. We want to feel acknowledged. We want to feel understood. We want to feel valued. There's all of these things that are meeting our needs. Like we want to feel heard. We want to feel acknowledged. We want to feel understood. We want to feel what we're saying is important. And if we don't feel understood, we can react from that unmet need. And that unmet need is the thing that has us go, no, I'm right. No, stop it. Like, no, listen to me. No, that's not what I'm saying. Listen to me. Why aren't you listening to me? All of that's your unmet needs talking. All of that is your unmet needs talking. So if you can take a moment and take a deep breath and think about what is my outcome, get back into creative mode. What is my outcome here? Is my outcome to be right? No, because if I'm right, they're wrong. Everybody loses. We know this. Instead, if my outcome is I want to get back connected, or my outcome is I want there to be understanding. I'm not feeling understood right now. And if you come to that rather than coming out to this, no, I'm right, no, you're wrong, you come from that place, chances are you're not going to be understood because they're going to get defensive. They're not even listening at that point. They're just trying to defend themselves and try to prevent their own needs from being compromised. If instead you can say, okay, let me take a deep breath. I'm having a really hard time right now because I'm not feeling understood. Like I feel there's a miscommunication happening and I'm not feeling understood. Can I explain what I mean in a different way and see if that makes sense to you? If you understand what it is I'm trying to say now. Like if you come from that vulnerability, if you come from like, I want to communicate with you, I want you to understand me and I want to understand you. And it may just be, I'm not feeling understood right now. So I'm guessing you might not be feeling understood right now. Can you explain to me what it is that you're trying to say so that I can understand it? And then maybe I can explain to you what I'm trying to say. And maybe we can get common ground so we can really figure this out together. Because ultimately that's what this is about. If you can be like, this doesn't feel fun right now. This doesn't feel good right now. Can we try and figure out a way of resolving this? Like, let's get on the same time. Like, let's figure this out together so we can get on to having fun. Like I would far rather go to the beach or sit and watch a movie or hang out and play cards or whatever it is that I want to do. I'd rather do that than this right now. And I'm sure you would rather do that than this right now. So how about we try and figure this out together so that we can get to that bit? Because that's way more fun. Like all of those things, if you focus on what your outcome is. And again, go back to creator mode. What's my outcome? My outcome is to get connected. What are the ways I can get connected? I could reach out and touch their hand. I could remind them that we're on the same team. I could say, I feel like we're not understanding each other at the moment. I really want to understand you. Could you explain this again to me? Because I'm like, it may just be I'm having a bit of a moment and I'm just like the dots aren't connecting for me. Could you explain it in a different way so I can understand? Or it could be that you say, like, I'm feeling really stressed right now. Would you mind if I just go and take 5 minutes to just go and shake this energy out my body? Because I've got a feeling what's going on has got nothing to do with this. And I want to make sure that doesn't affect this. Let's come, like, would you like give me 10 minutes and let's come back to the conversation because I really want us to be on the same page.
I just actually made kind of a note about that. And it's like how many arguments that I can recall, like just between me and my husband that where we call it like we'll be having a conversation and one of us may be like, oh, things feel a little bit crunchy. Why are they feeling like crunchy right now? Like, why is it like, ugh? And I'd say majority of the time is because of other BS that's happening, not in our sphere. It's because I've had a rough day or because this person is being how that person is, or like all of these, like life is getting in the way of the way that we're communicating, and we're frustrated with other things. So then that frustration comes out, like you have a little like, that's not what you said, and it could be, well, that's not what you said, but it comes out as, that's not what you said, because you're
Right.
like, and there's that kind of, it's lacking that pause of like, okay, like Claire said, who am I talking to? What is my outcome in this situation, in this conversation with this person as a whole? Like,
Right. And reminding yourself of who this person is to you. Like when the miscommunication happened with Serena and I around the thing that happened like a couple of months back, when we finally had the conversation about it, and this is always the case with Serena, with me. I'm like, I know who Serena is. Serena is like one of my people. Like people. Like I know that Serena is on my side. I know that she always wants to try and support me. I know that if something is not feeling right or something feels off, it's never because she's wanting to do that. It's never because she's trying to. It's never because she's just not caring. There's almost certainly a really good reason. I just haven't figured out what that really good reason is. I just don't know what the good reason is. That is the context I bring to these conversations. I remind myself of who Serena is to me. Same thing when I have a conversation with, I have a conversation with my other bestie, Sharona. I remember who they are. I remember who they are to me. I remember how they've shown up for me over and over and over again. And that becomes like, okay, let me now look at this through that lens. And once I start to look at it through that lens with an outcome of like, I want us to get back on the same page, because it really doesn't work for either. No, this is not good for anyone, us being at odds like this. And it's not even like we were at odds. We were just like a little squiffy. We're just a little off center. And as people who have huge attention to detail and can be a little OCD about certain things, a little squiffy, we notice it. And it's like, oh, it's a little off. And oh, that little off is really, I can feel it in my bones. Oh, can we get back on? It's clicked back into place. Okay. And that click back into place normally happens where it's like, remind myself of who the other person is and who they are to me and how they feel about me and how they've shown up for me. And then remind myself, what's my outcome with this person? How do I move this forward? How do I move further in that direction? Because if my outcome is being right, that drama triangle, that's just drama triangle, because that becomes a win-lose. If my outcome is, how do I navigate this situation to create the most understanding in a way that is supportive, as best it can be, supportive of both of us, then I'm going to approach it in a very different way. And how I approach it tends to be reaching out. How I approach it tends to be being vulnerable. Literally happened to me last night. I had a conversation with somebody where they pointed out something I was doing, and I've got a huge amount on my plate right now. So much going on my plate right now. And it could have easily felt like a criticism. And rather than responding from feeling criticized, what I instead did was I was vulnerable, and I was like, hey, this is what's going on right now, and this is why I'm doing that. And I thank you for letting me know, like, that's something for me to be mindful of, that's something that's creating something for you. And let me give you the context of what's happening in my world right now. And I got the most beautiful message this morning that was like, oh, thank you for letting me know. I really appreciate that. And I totally hear you, and I get where you're at, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, and it's just like, because I focused on who this person was and what my outcome was, and it made all the difference in how I approached it. And I think that the final thing is that this can feel a lot like we're so used to this pattern of behavior, right? We're so used to doing this, and like the whole, you said that, no, I didn't, like that, like we've seen it a million times. We've seen other people do it. We've done it ourselves. It's so easy to sink back into those patterns. And the first time we start stepping out of that and doing this something different can feel a little weird. Like it can feel a little bit odd. And it's also, if the other person isn't used to you doing it, they can be like, wait, what's happening right now? I don't like, this is new. This is different. And they may not trust it because it's new and different. Like security need can go, hold on. This is unfamiliar territory. I'm not sure how I feel about this. And the more that we can lean into that place and the more frequently we can do it, and more importantly, the more that we and they can see the positive outcomes of doing this. Like we can see, hold on a second, this makes things way easier. The easier it becomes, right? Like I know that you found this as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely, it becomes kind of natural. Like as I was saying at the beginning, the needs lens, when it's put on a relationship, is just game changing, especially when both parties are wearing the needs colored glasses. You definitely see it in a different light. But like conversation, like the conversations I'm having with my husband about things they're more productive now. They feel better. We come out of it and we're not like drained, like, oh, that was so much work. Because if there is like a point where there is a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, or, I've said something that I didn't actually mean for it to come out in that way, or, there was something that was said, but it processed indifferently and it wasn't quite actually what I said, like those things get stopped so quickly and so much sooner in the process that we save so much time, so much energy. Like it sounds so simple and it's probably like, all right, whatever, but like it really does add up, and it starts to become like you start to switch your conditioning around it. And it's if somebody's like, you didn't say that, I'm like, oh, wait, did I? Like, and it's almost like a reflection on myself. And it's like, oh no, I thought I did say that. Well, if I didn't, this is what I meant to say. And it's like, it's almost more natural for me to not take it personal, regardless of whether they're trying to go for some sort of power struggle. I'm like, and when you see somebody who, like, if you're in a situation and somebody's trying to go and they're trying for that, like that power thing, and you're like, oh, maybe that's not what I said it in my head that way, but it might have come out differently from my mouth. So this is what I'm trying to say. And they're like, oh, you're not going to fight me on this. And it's like, oh, if you didn't hear it, this is what I wanted to say. The point is me communicating this. So let me say this in a way that actually conveys that. Like,
right. And this may feel a little out of place now because I feel like this should have gone in earlier in this conversation, but it just occurred to me. And I think it's something that is a good indicator of the fact that you can be seem to be talking about different things, but actually talking about the same thing, and seem to be talking about the same thing, but actually talking about different things. Think about the language differences between the UK and the US, or the UK and Australia, or the US and Australia. And you can use the same word, has very different meanings. So you could think, oh, I'm communicating this really well here because I'm using the exact words, I'm saying exactly what I mean. But if that word means something different to the other person, they're not going to understand, and they're going to assume that you've said something different. Like, it was funny. I was making a joke. We were at the grocery store last night I was at the grocery store with a friend of mine. And I was like, it's so frustrating. Like, they never have coriander at the grocery stores here. They only have cilantro, which is obviously a joke because cilantro is what they call coriander here in the US. And then he was like, you want to know it's going to get even more confusing? We call it coriander when we talk about the seeds. I'm like, well, that's just ridiculous. Like, I'm like, just at least be consistent in what you're saying. And it was obviously a joke, and it was all kind of tongue in cheek, but there are certain words that you think you mean the same thing. I've told this story on a previous podcast episode where I had a friend of mine who was traveling through Australia, and he went into a bar, and it said shirts and shoes must be worn, no thongs. In Australia, that meant flip-flops. That is not what he understood it to mean. And he was like, do they have someone who goes around and checks? Like, that's kind of a cool job. I'm like, depending on the patron, I'm guessing. But like, I'm like, but you're using the word, but different people have different associations to different words. And that can be true even if you're speaking the same language. Even if, like, when I'm speaking in the UK to somebody else in the UK, depending on where in the UK they're from, they may have a different understanding of the same words. And even maybe based on our backgrounds, like certain words might mean certain things. and they might mean something different to somebody else. And it's a subtle example, but it's a really good one where you can literally see, oh no, I said this. No, you didn't. You said that.
Mm-hmm.
Both are actually true. Both could be true, but the meaning is lost. And the meaning is what matters.
It's like my usage of asshole sometimes. Like if I'm calling somebody an asshole, usually it's a term of endearment. I'm like, they're such an asshole. Like if I'm upset and calling you something, it's usually going to be something a little bit different than that. However, if you hear me in a conversation and you hear me say, like Joey is such an asshole, like people could be like, oh, did you hear Serena? She was calling Joey an asshole. And it had, and like,
we have the same thing with people here locally. There's a lot of people here locally that if you get called a bitch, that's a term of endearment. Like, like, hey bitch. Like, I'm like, oh, like, and it took a while when I first got here to recognize, oh, that's a good thing. Like, that's not a, like, another great example. Oh, bless your heart. Like in the UK, that's a genuine, oh, bless you. Like, that's really, like, I feel for you. That's really hard. In the US, it means you're an idiot. Or, sorry, that's an ableist language. But like, it's like, it's a put down. It's in the US, it's considered a put down. In the UK, and it is like the amount of times that I'm genuinely like, oh, bless you. And I'm like, oh, no, I mean that. Like, that's a genuine, like, I feel for you in that moment.
Like,
I'm not trying to put you down. Right, exactly. All these little things are ways that you can start to see how miscommunications can happen. And the point is not what was said. The point is what was meant. And the point is, how do we get back on the same page? How do we get back connected? And how do we work together? Because the thing is, as long as we are working together on it and we're moving forward, that's what matters. And by reminding yourself of who somebody is, reminding yourself of what your outcome is, and getting into that empowerment ecosystem, like drama triangle, that's how argument land. Like we can do better than that. Like let's get into the empowerment ecosystem and have some real fun. And because once you do that, you can move on from the conversation and start to have some real fun and do other things as well. So this is one of those things that we've seen over and over again. We see it happen. It's a small thing, but it's a small thing that makes a big difference. So like if you try this out with the people around you, because it's not just intimate relationships, this is friendships, this is family relationships, this is working relationships. This applies in any one of these situations. If you try this out, please let us know how you got on with it. Like I would love to hear like the difference it makes. And if maybe you haven't, it's like, oh, it didn't quite work. This is what happened. We might be able to give you some of the nuance and context to help you understand why that happened. And we'll do a follow-up episode so we can go into this a little bit deeper. Anything else you want to add before we finish up?
I'm good.
No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will be back next week. Between now and then, remember to stay safe, take care of yourself, and continue to meet your own needs. Lots of love. Bye.
Bye, friends.
That's it for today. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, rate, and give us a written review, as it will help more people find us.
And remember, miscommunications don't have to lead to an argument. They can be an opportunity to reconnect and remind yourself of your outcome.
Well, shit. It really is that simple.